name's Andrew Pryfogle. I'm the founder and CEO of CX Effect. It's great to have you all here. Excited to introduce you to Luc Dallaire, who's the head of growth at Bright. Really interesting company. I'm excited to kind of explore their story with you today. Solving really one of the most painful problems in contact centers for sure, but frankly across companies, and that is how we've always traditionally trained people. This whole learning and development aspect that companies have struggled with for so long. What would a modern solution look like to solve that problem? That's what today's conversation is all about. Luc, welcome, man.
Thank you. Yeah, really excited to be here. I'd love to get into it with you here.
Yeah, indeed. Hey, let's first kick this off, Luc, by talking about the problem that we're solving, because it's a painful one, and it's something that I hear complaints about from customers all the time that are struggling with this. It affects things like employee churn and retention, time to proficiency, and the way we've always done it is simply not scaling anymore. And there's with a lot of innovation around technology, a lot of what you guys have built has really kind of flipped that whole thing on its head. I'm excited for people to hear about it. Tell us about the problem first. Let's talk about that. I think you have a slide to share that kind of spells that out.
Yeah, I think we have a slide, and apologies for those of you who are going to suffer through my raspy voice between lots of talking in the last couple of days and not feeling well. It's been fun. Let me go ahead and pull up a slide here for you. All right, hopefully you all can see this now.
There it is.
All right, so yeah, I mean, the problem is one that I think if you are in and around, I'll call it the contact center space, but I would really broaden that to say the frontline space. So yes, contact center, but also retail, back office teams that are doing processing of different types of things. Everybody who's interacting with customers or patients or processing tasks in the back end. It is a challenging job. The traditional training, has been, it's pretty expensive to recruit and hire. We all know that. It's expensive to train people. It takes them a long time to get good at their job. And then because the traditional model is still largely focused around delivering sort of passive content, right? Think e-learnings, instructor-led training, those kinds of things, which is essential to the learning process, but is not the entire learning process. People are not really set up for success when they get into their production level role. And so they leave because they don't feel confident, they don't feel competent. And that high turnover sort of challenge that we have in this contact center industry in particular is there. There's tons of learning science we could nerd out on, but I won't do that here with you and the folks listening. But people don't really learn by just sitting and listening and then taking a few quizzes. They have to practice, they have to do it. And so as a result of the existing space, I think this number 3 here is one of the saddest statistics I've ever seen, which is that the vast majority of business leaders are unhappy or dissatisfied with their L&D function because it doesn't really move the needle. And that's the challenge that we face today.
Luc, thank you. That's really to the point. I'm curious your take on how remote work complicates this even further, right? Because in yesteryear, we used to pull everyone together in conference rooms and training facilities, and that's how we always did it. Now everyone's spread out. It just exasperates the problem, doesn't it?
It does. It makes it a lot harder. I mean, we have to take all of the challenges of what I just talked about. Even delivering practice was very manual, and as a result of that, really didn't happen very much. Yeah. That becomes even harder when you're not building engagement, sitting next to somebody and at least getting them motivated. When you're on the other end of a screen and you can multitask and you can do other things, it is a lot harder to sit in front of a screen for 8 hours as doing an instructor-led course. Right. Than even sitting in a classroom, which is still also not the optimal way to get people to get good at something. So you've taken the challenges that I described and made it even harder by being remote.
Yeah, indeed. Another part of this challenge that keeps coming up with me is, when we deal with contact center leaders, for example, all over the country, it's common that a company, a team of customer support people, for example, they might be leveraging 5, 6, 7 different systems during a single interaction. And
Yeah.
it's oftentimes that 2 or 3 of those systems are kind of in-house custom built systems, right? A line of business applications that are not off the shelf like Salesforce or something like
Yeah.
that, right? Being able to train around all of those permutations, around all these different systems, that's a really, really complex thing to do in the traditional learning and development kind of environment.
Yeah, I mean, traditionally there are, if you're lucky, you have a training environment, a sandbox of your platform.
Yeah.
And anybody who has those, they're lucky, but the data becomes obsolete very quickly. It takes constant manual rework, and then it becomes very out of date because production systems get upgraded and the IT team kind of forgets about the sandbox.
Yeah.
So you very quickly don't have any, ability to keep it up to date. And you don't capture any of the proficiency of the people that are actually going through. You have no idea if they're actually doing the right workflow, if they're actually documenting in the right way. And so you're exactly right. That is even more of a challenge above many of the things you might think about in terms of role play. A lot of times people think about role play, just pick up a phone, practice. There's lots of elements of somebody's job that they do in this contact center industry than just having the conversation.
Yeah, indeed. The other piece of this is most companies, or perhaps many, I should just say, have leveraged learning management systems, right?
Mm-hmm.
They've spent a lot of money on an LMS. They've spent a lot of money in building out content, content designers on staff, that kind of stuff, and it's been an expensive thing for them to try to tackle. Speak about the challenges around that traditional approach. Around, isn't the answer here, Luc, just to buy an LMS and build it out?
That's what most people are thinking the answer still is. So the LMS, learning management system, there are hundreds of them out there.
Yeah.
And they're all, I would say, pretty commoditized at this point because they have many permutations and different ways to do it. But ultimately, their job and their goal is to be a single place to deliver some sort of digital content that a learner either flips through, thumbs through, or watches as a video, and then give quizzes or assessments, and then says, yep, Andrew completed his training and he passed all his quizzes. So Andrew is ready.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess I don't even need to say a whole lot more for those of you out there that are thinking like, well, Andrew's definitely not ready because he passed his quiz. Andrew doesn't actually know how to go do the thing he's supposed to do.
Right.
So LMSs, so when we think about at Bright, when we think about the L&D operating model and we think about learning, from a neuroscience perspective, there's learn, see, do. There are many different ways people say that. People tell me, show me, let me try, whatever your flavor is.
Yeah.
The LMSs do the learn part, right? They give you the digital lesson, they give you the content, but they don't do any of the shadowing experiences that happen. That's why people usually double jack and do all the things that are traditionally a shadowed experience. And then there's no practice in there as well. But those are the ways you reinforce what you've learned. And those are the ways you then develop skill proficiency in the things you're supposed to be doing, not just being able to sort of theoretically answer from a set of predefined choices, which is what we do today for 99% of corporate training.
Yeah, so true. All right. Well, Luc, I think we've kind of laid the groundwork. We all agree, violently agree. This is a really complicated problem. It's costing us a lot of money, a lot of frustration. Something's broken. How do we fix this? Give us, I know you have one other slide. Start to kind of introduce to us your unique approach in tackling this issue.
Yeah, so appreciate that. Bright is an immersive learning company. We are an entire learning experience platform that really stitches together all of the elements that I just described a second ago. So the coolest, sort of newest part of this are the simulations. We're not the only simulation provider out there. We obviously think we're the best, but everybody will say that. But in addition to the simulations, which is really what gives you practice, we deliver the entire end-to-end learning journey through our LXP. So when you think about learn, we can deliver digital lessons hosted in Bright, or because we're an LXP, we can actually aggregate experiences from an LMS that you might have already. All of our customers have an LMS. They actually bring us in to do the other pieces because they're like, well, we have to keep this for X, compliance reasons, but we don't do any of this other stuff. Wouldn't it be great if we could do it all? Or LinkedIn Learning or any sort of other experience like that. We can deliver those more traditional types of experiences. There's a lot of places then where you can do digital shadowing in Bright, where you can actually record experiences without having to really take away from your production service levels, which is what shadowing does today in many cases. You can bring that into a digital asynchronous experience and still give the same value, but you've now curated it as part of a learning journey.
Yeah.
And then, of course, the simulations that you see on the screen here. So think about many different modalities and many different types. So conversation and chat simulations, both from a micro skills perspective and giving really detailed explanations as to why you are, doing great or maybe have room to grow, and fully branching conversation simulations with a customer all the way through a workflow. Back office simulations. So this is something where think about, yes, you're going to make decisions while you're on a call, but also if you are a loan processor or if you are a claims processor and you don't talk to people, but you review claims forms and you analyze them and you review your SOPs and you basically make decisions on, are you able to make a decision on the claim? Are you able to describe why this decision is made? All of this is also something we can simulate in Bright.
Yep.
And so we think about sort of three core pillars. There's the interaction with the customer or the patient, if it's a healthcare setting. There's all of the analytical skills and decision making that goes on with navigating a transaction or an experience. And then we talked about this a second ago, the software simulations that we build. We don't integrate into any systems, but can prototype any and all systems, whether it is a Salesforce or a green screen, which some of our customers have mainframe green screen systems. Don't hate on those. There's still a lot of businesses that run on those, and even homegrown systems. And so part of our value proposition is that we stitch all of these experiences together from start to finish. We do each of them extremely well, and then we capture proficiency data through all of that practice.
Yeah.
So where you're clicking, are you making errors? Are you asking for help? How long is it taking you? Are you showing empathy? Are you answering the right question? Are you doing the appropriate discovery cadence, etc.? Whatever your desired behavior is, you can build simulations and get people to start small and build complexity as they build confidence and competence, which is a really important part of the process.
Yep.
And we use AI to scale this function. So all of what I just said can be delivered without AI, technically, right? But it's a very linear experience. You can give people coaching, you can do all of these things, but you need to hire many, many trainers to do that. We actually do allow for human coaching because there's a really important blended experience that we're huge proponents of, where parts of the journey has that touch point. But then we use AI in a couple different ways and a couple different types of AI to scale and automate the coaching function. So not only can I understand what you're saying, what decision you're making, all of those things, then I can decide what type of coaching you should receive and other things that navigate the transaction. So now we're really delivering practice at scale, which is the key to giving people a chance to actually get hands-on practice without having to add ridiculous, internal cost to an L&D team from having to hire trainers, et cetera.
Luc,
go ahead.
The simulation piece of this is so key, and it's I think it's hard for some customers to picture when you're saying to me, Luc, that if I've got these 7 systems that an agent of mine interfaces with in a typical interaction, you're creating a simulated environment that includes what appears to be live instances of all these 7 systems, right? But they're not live instances. And so because of that, there is no API work that you have to do. There is no kind of deep integration that you have to go into their backend systems. There's no compliance issues, all that kind of stuff. You're taking all of those systems, building a fully simulated environment that mirrors that. And then that's where the learning and that's where the practice happens. Am I correct?
Yeah, you got it. IT teams really like our conversations because we don't host any sort of PII, PHI, PCI. We don't integrate into anything. So it's a pretty easy
Yeah.
experience. And often we get the question, well, how do you simulate a system if you don't do any of that? Well, we've got a proprietary process that we've developed that can uh, build a template of a system.
Yeah.
It looks just like your systems because it comes from them. And then we essentially build an operational database function, et cetera, that mimics the capabilities of your systems. Every dropdown works, every field works, every button works, all these things work. And then the way we build that really allows our customers to um, maintain and create new much faster than you're not building from scratch every time. We're creating templates that then become reusable in other ways. Change the name from Andrew to Luke, change the workflow from this thing to this thing. And it takes a fraction of the time than maybe the initial build might have done. And we're talking hours and days, not like weeks and weeks, which is typically the case for any type of traditional authoring tool out there that you might experience. So the build process becomes really tremendous. And then the learner output, to your point, if you use 5, 6, 7 systems as part of your workflow, we can put all of that as part of a simulated experience so that you are researching, you are entering, you are analyzing, you're calculating, whatever it is you need to do, just like you would in real life. And so people really get the hang of it. And that's the whole point, right?
I love it. I love it. As an add-on to that really quick, and by the way, I'll just mention to our audience today, if you have any questions, and I'll pop them into chat and I'll make sure that we get them in front of Luc here. But the other piece of this, Luc, is you mentioned it briefly there, the ongoing stuff, right? So I build all this curriculum out. I have this amazing platform that I've now deployed. It's helping to radically shorten the amount of time to proficiency and getting those initial classes through and so forth. But training is an ongoing thing. It's organic, right? There's always things that happen, new developments, things. Oh, shoot, I've got to, I just had this happen. I got to go train 175 people next week on this new thing. How do I do that at scale? And the ability for you to do that and continue to build and iterate on content is a really powerful piece of the story. Am I right?
Yeah. So, I mean, the new hire use case that we've sort of been talking about is what most people go into thinking it is an easy use case that has tremendous ROI attached to it in multiple fashions. And we can, talk about that at any time. But to your point, learning doesn't stop there for a number of reasons. Whether you are needing to communicate new products, new programs, new compliance requirements, et cetera, or whether you need to close skill gaps that start to happen. So maybe, this month, Luc's quality scores are dipping and they're really below threshold, but Andrew's scores are great in quality, but maybe his product knowledge, he's really missing some questions because of different things. So we can actually take that kind of insight from an operations team and a data set from other things and use that to automate the upskilling journey that's personalized to you. So where I might get quality related practice within Bright, you might get product knowledge related practice within Bright, and it becomes automated in its creation and assignment and analysis, automated in its delivery of the practice experiences. And then you've got a rich data set of predictive data that comes out the back end that says, hey, Andrew is now crushing it. Every time I ask him this question, every scenario that I give him now, he's giving the right answer the first time. Or maybe, wow, he is really not getting it yet. Let's continue to give him practice because I don't know what's going on, but we need to tell Andrew about X product a little bit better. You get a much different set of insights than you would if you just gave Andrew a few quizzes and was like, yeah, well, he passed them all. So, he's doing fine.
Yeah, that's very cool. Very cool. There's a question that came up here about a customer's current LMS. I think you mentioned this earlier. You feel most of your customers have some sort of an LMS today, right?
So this is a great question, and it's evolving a little bit at Bright. We started out very focused on the simulation experience, and we built our LXP around that to really deliver it in the most effective way. Right now, every one of our customers, almost every one of our customers, I'll say, has an LMS, and we work nicely with an LMS or as a really strong complement. We do have, for what it's worth, some customers that use us as their LMS. I mean, we can do the delivery of digital lessons and other things. And actually, there's just a couple pieces that we're going to be adding this year that will make it a full-fledged LMS. As much as we hate the term LMS, and we're never going to call ourselves one, if somebody is looking for the very basic LMS functionality, in addition to all of the practice and the simulation that we've talked about, we'll be able to check all of those boxes pretty soon. So I guess, Richard, to your question, if they want to, yes. Most of our customers are not ready to get rid of their LMS or let go of their LMS, but they want all of the things that actually makes the training effective, which is all the practice and simulation.
Yeah. Great. Makes a lot of sense. We have a few minutes left here. I want to talk about some outcomes that you guys are driving, because the impact on this is not just that, hey, this is cool. This training is better than we had before.
Yeah.
We feel like it's more effective. Did you have a lot of hard data about the results that it's driving for real businesses?
Yeah.
Are very tangible and directly tie into ROI for a company. Talk about that real quick.
Yeah, we do. We have case studies that we use to highlight different parameters and different impacts, but at a high level, almost every metric you want moves, because really when people practice and get better, that's how they get better. But we've got some customers who are, when you cut your training time by more than 50%, there is a tremendous labor cost savings. We have some customers saving multiple millions of dollars a year annually, just in unproductive wages that they used to spend training people who are now out there doing production level work. And even with fewer, and that's actually a fairly common, all of our customers reduce their training time. Many of them really make a huge dent. But even with less time spent training, because of the way that we design the learning experience, where we put simulation throughout the journey as part of sort of the central element, they still see we have some of our customers that have near zero ramp times, where their first week of their new hires graduating from training have better first call resolution than their veteran agents, have better quality than their veteran agents. I mean, we see employee attrition go down 30+%. We see sales closure rates also go up. NPS scores go up. We had one customer tell us that their talk time went down by 20%, which is tremendous, because they have a BPO partner that they pay per minute. So we haven't quantified the cost savings yet, but it's a lot. And their error rates, their customer-facing error rates went down 77%.
Wow.
And they graduated their new hire classes. They had 25% more graduates than they normally would net. So they have to hire less gross people to net the same amount, which is a cost savings. They have a tremendous reduction in quality, and they have a tremendous reduction in talk time. And so whichever way you slice it, CX scores, internal cost scores, they all move. And you can certainly build simulations to focus on some of those, but we definitely have a pretty wide array of impacts that we could share.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love it. In today's world, where the labor dollar is still incredibly expensive for companies, and their ability to hire and train and retain talent is frankly harder than ever, you guys are solving for one of the most difficult problems and one of the most painful ones that CX leaders deal with every single day.
And it's funny, because this is one of those, and I'll call it rare, but it's really an unheard of moment, where the business goal of I want to cut my training time, and I want people to be better. That's already at odds, but those things happen. It is in parallel with an employee's goal of employees want to be good. They want to know what they're doing. They want to be successful. And so this is one of those places where both of those things actually happen. We had one of our favorite quotes we've ever gotten from a learner from one of our customers was they went through training, and they said, I worked at a lot of big companies, but I've never had anybody invest in me the way that you guys just did, and I will never leave.
Wow.
And who knows if they'll never leave, but that kind of sentiment we get a lot. Our customers share that kind of sentiment a lot, and we see it in their attrition numbers, right? People immediately are successful, so they have longer term employees. They're churning them less, so there's savings all across the board. But then you've got your expertise level that's actually building, because now you've got people who know what they're doing, who are excited about what they're doing, and they're able to be successful.
Yeah.
So we really tackle it from a number of directions. And at the end of the day, all of that goes to improve the customer experience.
That's
You've
right.
got a more competent, confident employee who's more engaged. That customer is going to be better served. And we all know EX is a huge function of CX. We tackle CX through that EX lens, just like you said.
Yeah, have to. And I think a lot of companies, they forget that piece, right? It's how do I drive costs out of the front end? How do I drive handle times down? How do I avoid calls entirely so that I don't have to talk to customers, right? Because that's a way to make things cheaper. But man, if I can embrace this idea of making my employees, super agents, if you will, right? Give them the knowledge they need to do their jobs far more effectively. Driving up that employee experience has a massive impact on the business, no question.
Yeah,
go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was going to say the closing. So I sat on an AI panel yesterday for another engagement, and one of the questions they asked was, is generative AI and AI going to change the customer service landscape? And obviously, everybody's answer is yes.
Sure.
But my perspective and the way that we're thinking about it at Bright is yes, and in some ways that might not be as mainstream. Everybody is thinking about the chatbots and the RPA and the automation that you just described. How do I remove transactional things? And that's something that will happen, but there are still a whole swath of people who just want to talk to a person.
Yep. Indeed.
And those questions become more difficult. They are more complicated. And so to your point, you use the term super agent. We're using AI to then enhance the learning process so that person learns faster, becomes more proficient and confident and competent in what they're supposed to do, so that then they can better serve their customers.
Love it. That is a great way to close it. And to your point, Luc, my final comment would simply be, if you believe that automation and AI are going to be able to automate the transactional stuff on the front end more and more, then it becomes even that much more imperative that the people you have handling, what's left are the complex issues, right? The hard to handle problems and the difficult to resolve issues. If that's what's left, you got to be far more effective at training those people on how to be expert at handling those. And I know of no better way to do that than Bright. We're really excited to have you guys in our ecosystem. Great job today, my friend.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Always great to have these chats with you, Andrew.
Excellent. Fantastic. Guys, there you go. Check out Bright. You can check them out at cxbasecamp.com as well, where we love to have them in conversations with our customers. This is a game changer for you if you're recognizing the importance of employee experience driving better CX. There you go. Have a great day.
Thanks, everyone.